Once upon a time, the Chicago White Sox had Fernando Tatis Jr. in their organization and traded him away for James Shields. But there was also a time where post-Tatis trade, you could have looked at the White Sox and with a serious face say, well, they have Tim Anderson, so it makes up for losing Tatis. I was someone who genuinely believed that a few years ago. Tim Anderson was the White Sox leadoff hitter. Tim Anderson was an all-star. Tim Anderson was an elite defensive shortstop with arguably the best batting average skills in all of baseball. Tim Anderson was a freaking badass. He was cool. He made pitchers look like bitches. Tim Anderson was a straight dog, and then all of a sudden he just fell off. How does that happen? What the hell happened? When TA first came up in the league, he wasn't really all that good. His first year ever, 2016, he was exactly league average as a hitter, but provided defense that shot his value up. That was in 99 games that year, but then 2017 came along and he was just bad at everything for some reason. His bat provided zero value, and he was also like the worst defensive shortstop in the game. Nobody at any position in baseball had more errors than him. If you want to know how bad his range was, just imagine Jack Black standing out there with a glove. That's basically what that was. Just a crap year all around. He also had a brief little altercation with Marcus Stroman, which isn't an accomplishment of any kind. If you're a living, breathing thing on planet Earth, you're already someone Stroman hates. During an at-bat between the two, Tim Anderson called time when Stroman was starting his windup, and Anderson did this on purpose to throw Stroman off, who was pissed about it. And after later striking out in the at-bat, Anderson looked back at Stroman for a few seconds, then looked away, but at that point, Stroman started yelling at him. I don't know, he probably started calling Anderson racist or something, I don't know. The whole thing made no sense. I can't stop imagining these two as teammates being like that a cappella skit from Key and Peele, if you know, you know. But for Anderson moving forward, it's interesting. It's like he committed himself for the next 2 years to improve each individual aspect of his game drastically. And in 2018, that would be his defense. His offense stayed the same in 2018. It wasn't good, but his defense was like the difference between Jonah Hill pre and post Moneyball. He was awesome out there. And 2018 also didn't go by without some controversy. After doing some of the only things he did well offensively in 2018, hitting a home run, Anderson celebrated it a little too much for Salvador Perez's liking, who had something to say to him as he touched home plate, and Anderson wasn't very confrontational then. He just tapped Perez's chest as a way to dismiss him, to be like, all right, bud, whatever. Skip ahead minutes later when Perez gets to second base in the bottom of the inning, and with the two being in proximity of each other again, they started going at it to a point where the benches had to clear. Perez felt Anderson was being disrespectful to the Royals with what he did after hitting the home run, saying that he said a bad word and citing that he did the same thing on opening day. Perez was basically upset that Anderson was acting all fired up and excited on home runs. And this becomes an even bigger thing later on, but for now, this was never anything that was going to escalate to any sort of fight. It really seemed more just a discussion between philosophically different people, like when Batman tries to interrogate the Joker in The Dark Knight. Okay, maybe not the best comparison, but you get the point. And it was so unhostile that the two completely hashed things up on the field after everyone left, shaking hands and everything. The umpire's like, okay, you can kiss now. Everyone's happy. I don't know why he asked for them to kiss. That part was kind of creepy. Like, keep your fantasies to yourself. But it was all fine. Everything's fine. And then came 2019. And remember how 2018 was where his defense changed for the better? Well, 2019 was where the offense changed as drastically as Kris Jenner after becoming Caitlyn. Tim Anderson's offense exploded, with his batting average mainly being what was the most impressive thing. He became exactly what a prototypical leadoff hitter is, raising his batting average almost 100 points from the previous year, winning the American League batting title and just the batting title in general. He had the highest average in the sport. He lowered his strikeouts. Instead of at best a defensive shortstop, he was now an overall solid player with the same passion that pissed off the Royals in 2018. You know how I know that? Because he pissed the Royals off again in 2019. After hitting a bomb off of Brad Keller, Anderson was fired up, yelling, throwing his bat. He might as well have stripped naked and showed off his own bat to the world the way Keller acted. You would have thought that's what happened if you just saw Keller's reaction. So he rounds the bases, steps on home. Nothing is said or anything. It's what happened next at bat when Keller rammed his ball up Anderson's ass as retaliation. And Anderson, of course, wasn't happy, as he shouldn't have been. I mean, it was very unconsensual what happened here. Although Martin Maldonado, the catcher, wasn't at all an enemy in Anderson's eyes, as he just kind of tapped his shoulder and had all of his attention out on Keller. It's not like Maldonado wasn't in on this grand plan by Keller, though. He himself didn't respect Anderson celebrating his home run the way he did either. Anderson just really seemed honed in on Keller, though. Bench is clear. Both Keller and Anderson, for some reason too, were ejected. And this was just the beginning of his memorable season, one where he also referred to himself as the modern-day Jackie Robinson in a Sports Illustrated interview. Now, it's very easy to look at that quote and misinterpret it. Did Anderson literally mean he believed he was being persecuted as much as Jackie Robinson was? No, it was more about the pushback being put upon him, showing emotion on the field. Was it a dumb comparison to make? Maybe, sure, I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely an extreme one to make, but it made sense what he was saying. I get it. This was also right around the time Major League Baseball themselves was being very open about supporting this kind of stuff. The bat flips, the celebrations, all the stuff that would give Madison Bumgarner an aneurysm. I mean, 2019 was the same year Bumgarner got mad at Max Muncy for pimping a bomb off of him, only for Muncy to tell him to get it out of the water. And then the Dodgers proceeded to make shirts out of this quote. Or when Justin Verlander told Juan Soto to not shuffle, so Soto told him to kiss his ass by hitting the next pitch to San Antonio and then carrying his bat to first base. So Anderson was just one of many, showing that it's more than okay to have fun playing baseball. And when you look at what Fernando Tatis Jr. started doing over in San Diego, the man Chicago had before they traded him for James Shields, again, it was like, damn, the White Sox could have had him. But hey, they have Tim Anderson, so it all worked out, right? Well, 2021 was the absolute peak of Anderson's career. He was put on the cover of Timu MLB The Show, aka RBI Baseball. He was named an All-Star for the first time, hit over 300 again on a first-place Chicago White Sox team. God, that sounds weird to say, but he was statistically the best player on a first-place team, an All-Star, a cover athlete. He had a walk-off home run against the Yankees in the coldest way possible. Like, everything was on its way up for Tim. White Sox go one and done in the playoffs, but Anderson kept it going in 2022. April was a great month for him. He hit over 300 with an OPS over 850 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 1 middle finger to the fans. After making 3 errors in the game in Cleveland, he flipped off the fans and got suspended 1 game, although he won his appeal, so it got reduced to just a fine after he apologized. Really good to see him holding himself accountable there, not making the situation worse. Surely nothing worse will happen to Anderson in Cleveland after that. He had an even better May, hitting almost 400 with an OPS over 900. Bro was just straight cooking, and there was another interesting situation that happened that month. During a game between the White Sox and Yankees, Anderson was on third base, and on a throw back to third trying to pick Anderson off, he and Josh Donaldson collided, which pushed Anderson off the bag. He wasn't called out. The umpire called out the pushing off the bag, but Anderson was pissed, shoving Donaldson, which led to the benches clearing. There was a brief moment later, too, where the two said some stuff to each other as an inning was ending. This all happened in the middle of that month in Chicago. A week later, the White Sox are now in New York, and in the first inning, Donaldson calls Tim Anderson Jackie, referring to when Anderson called himself the Jackie Robinson of baseball in 2019. Now, according to Donaldson, he didn't mean any ill will by it, and he was under the impression that he had an inside joke with Tim Anderson by calling him Jackie.
2019, he came out with interviews, said that he's the new Jackie Robinson of baseball. He's going to bring back fun for the game. 2019, when I played for Atlanta, we actually joked about that on the game, and I've said it to him years past, not in any manner than just joking around for the fact that he called himself Jackie Robinson. Something has changed from that. Like, my meaning of that is not at any term trying to be racist. When we said that before, we joked about it. He laughed. Whatever.
A couple innings later, the two started saying some more stuff to each other as Donaldson was rounding second base as the inning was over. Several White Sox guys had to come over and make sure it didn't turn into anything drastic, because they were saving that for the 5th inning, when Donaldson came back up to the plate only to get confronted by the White Sox catcher, Yasmani Grandal, about calling Anderson Jackie. The bench is cleared. Tim Anderson had to be held back. No brawl of any kind happened. Just the usual case of grown men gazing into each other's eyes, and Donaldson calling Tim Anderson Jackie became the whole controversy surrounding the situation. And it's crazy how, looking back, you can look at this date as the one where Tim Anderson's career fell apart. Because at this point, he was still a really good player. There wasn't really anything wrong there. And this happened in the later half of May 2022. And even though he was named an All-Star for the 2nd straight year, he started the game. He was the starting shortstop for the American League All-Star team, the first White Sox shortstop to do that in over 50 years. Get ready for another 50. So even though he was named an all-star, again, he was hurt most of the rest of the year, and when he played, he wasn't good. You can look at that date as when things started to really fall apart. He didn't even play half the White Sox games that year. One of his last games featured him getting ejected and bumping the umpire when yelling at him, which led to another suspension that he also was able to reduce on an appeal. I gotta know who this guy's lawyer is. He soon after got a season-ending injury and then let the fall off of a lifetime officially commence. So where the hell did everything go wrong? What was the problem? Women. No, I'm not going to get too into it, but Tim Anderson had some off the field problems going on. Problems with his wife, cheating on his wife, affairs, which, whoa, no way. An athlete being unfaithful?
Crime wave in Gotham. Other breaking news. Water. Wet.
It also should be noted the good Tim Anderson's done off the field too, like starting a charity called Anderson's League of Leaders that sets out to support children in school and at home while also financially trying to help issues like bullying and gun violence after Tim's best friend, the godfather of his children, was shot and killed back in 2017, which inspired him to start the charity to begin with. So Tim Anderson may be a dick with some things, but it wouldn't be fair to just paint him in that light. He's done a lot of good too, for sure. And injuries weren't really a problem for Tim Anderson in 2023. It was mostly just a combination of, I'm sure, the off-field drama taking a toll and being a distraction, but also, I'm going to let you all in a little secret. Tim Anderson was unfortunately never that great to begin with. He may have had some good stuff like a high batting average, which is awesome, don't get it wrong, but the underlying type metrics weren't. Tim Anderson had awful plate discipline, literally walking less than anyone in 2021, a year that was his best, but more importantly, he didn't hit the ball that hard. His bat speed wasn't good. It was basically just a bunch of stuff that told you he may be good in that moment, but it was never built to last. It's really interesting, actually. I'm not that knowledgeable in that kind of stuff, but these stats, these analytics were, I guess, a sign of bad things to come, and awful things have been coming all over the place. In 2023, Tim Anderson was statistically the worst hitter in baseball. He did miss like a decent chunk of games, but it wasn't that many. He still played over 120 of them. So it was plenty of a sample size to see Anderson just didn't have it. His career all of a sudden just looked miserable, which is when Jose Ramirez took matters into his own hands, literally to put it out of its misery. In a game back in Cleveland between the White Sox and Guardians, after Ramirez slid in a second on a double, Anderson stood over him, which prompted Jose to get up and start telling Anderson off, which then prompted Anderson to take his glove off and square up for a fight. And just as if he was at the plate, he swings and misses 3 times before Ramirez lands a shot right on Anderson's face that knocks him to the ground, as Cleveland's radio broadcaster makes it call like he's been preparing for this moment for years.
They're fighting! They're swinging! Down goes Anderson! Down goes Anderson!
I mean, wow. And since this punch landed on Tim Anderson's face, he hasn't hit a single home run. Not one. He was statistically the worst hitter in baseball in 2023. The Marlins gave him a shot in 2024. He was even worse. The Angels gave him a shot this year. Nothing's changed, and he's now been released from them too. Is Jose Ramirez the sole reason Anderson fell off? No. Again, he was already awful when it happened, and like those underlying metrics said, even during his good years, Tim Anderson was never going to age well, at least according to what that all showed. But J-Ram's punch was basically nailing the coffin shut, which is obviously easy to say in hindsight with the way things have only gotten since. A lot worse. I'm curious on how people feel about Tim Anderson. As bad and unlikely as any sort of comeback looks, would you like to see him make one? I would, I'll be honest. Will his career be revived? Probably not. But as dead as his career is right now, you can never say never. Justin Bieber told me that once. Banger song, by the way. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and thank you for watching. Love you. Bye.